Live long and prosper.
Star Trek changed everything, but behind the legend was chaos, feuds, and shocking secrets viewers never saw. From fiery accidents to bizarre behind-the-scenes moments, it's a miracle the show survived at all. These are 20 weird facts about Star Trek, and wait until the end, because the bonus fact reveals the terrifying stunt that nearly ended a life. Buckle up, this isn't the Star Trek you thought you knew. Number 1. In 1965, Star Trek was pitched to NBC as a bold new kind of sci-fi, philosophical, forward-thinking, and serious. The network listened and said no. They called the pilot too cerebral. The pacing was slow. The tone was strange. Captain Pike wasn't dynamic enough, and the whole thing, they said, just wouldn't work. The cage was shelved. The project was dead. But then something unheard of happened. NBC, for the first time in its history, ordered a second pilot. They let Gene Roddenberry try again. The result was where no man has gone before, with a new captain, new energy, and a pointy-eared science officer who wouldn't be going anywhere. It was a second chance that changed TV history, and Star Trek has been beating the odds ever since. Number 2. He's one of the most iconic characters in science fiction, but Spock almost didn't make it past episode 1. NBC executives were uncomfortable with his look. The pointed ears, the arched eyebrows, the cold logic, they said he resembled the devil. They wanted him gone, completely written out, but Gene Roddenberry refused. He fought tooth and nail to keep Spock on the bridge, and when test audiences responded to Nimoy's performance, the studio backed off. What they saw as dangerous, viewers saw as unforgettable, and just like that, a potential PR disaster became one of the most beloved aliens in television history. But as the character survived, so did the show, and it owed its survival to someone completely unexpected. Number 3. Most fans don't realize Star Trek was saved by the Queen of Comedy. Lucille Ball wasn't just a TV icon, she was also the head of Desilu Productions. When NBC wavered on funding Roddenberry's second pilot, it was Lucy who stepped in. She believed in the idea. She signed off on the budget herself, despite knowing almost nothing about science fiction. Her own board members warned her it could sink the studio. She backed it anyway. Without Lucille Ball, Star Trek would have ended in a filing cabinet in 1965. Instead, it launched a universe. But even after the green light, the legacy almost got lost, literally. Number 4. After the show wrapped, the 11-foot model of the USS Enterprise, used for nearly every exterior shot, was left to collect dust in a storage room at Paramount. At one point, it was tossed into a trash bag, moved between warehouses, and nearly destroyed altogether. It wasn't until a studio worker who happened to be a fan recognized it and rescued it that the model was saved. Today, that same piece of television history sits safely in the Smithsonian. But for years, the most iconic starship in sci-fi was one janitor's decision away from being thrown out with the garbage. And that wasn't the only behind-the-scenes crisis no one saw coming. Number 5. After the series ended, Roddenberry found himself in debt and battling legal disputes over royalties and rights. To stay afloat, he began quietly selling studio memos, unused scripts, and behind-the-scenes notes to fans through unofficial channels. It wasn't public, it wasn't glamorous, but it kept him going. The man who created the 23rd century was struggling to survive the 20th. And if you ever come across an original script with Roddenberry's signature, chances are it helped pay for a lawyer. Number 6. On screen, they were the perfect duo, calm logic and bold instinct. Off screen, it was far from smooth. William Shatner and Leonard Nimoy clashed constantly during the original series. From screen time to fan mail, even lighting setups, everything was a competition. Shatner reportedly resented Nimoy's growing popularity. Nimoy grew tired of being second to a captain he often disagreed with. Over time, their relationship thawed, but during the early years, they were locked in a silent battle between scenes. And Shatner wasn't done clashing with his crew. Number 7. While some feuds fade, this one only got colder. George Takei, who played Sulu, has spoken openly about his frustration with Shatner. He claimed Shatner was dismissive, spotlight-hungry, and constantly undermined his fellow castmates. Decades later, even after reunions and conventions, Takei still says, "We were never friends." Shatner, for his part, denies most of it, but fans noticed, cast members noticed, and over 50 years later, two men who traveled the stars together still haven't bridged the gap. Number 8. By season 2 of the original series, the network wanted more than science fiction. They wanted sex appeal. NBC executives told Gene Roddenberry they needed a Davy Jones type to pull in younger viewers. The Beatles were exploding in pop culture, and NBC wanted a face on the bridge who could ride that wave. So they introduced Ensign Pavel Chekhov, played by Walter Koenig, with a Beatles-style mop haircut and a youthful charm meant to target teen girls. It wasn't about plot, it was about marketing. But what started as a demographic ploy became a fan-favorite character and a Cold War-era nod to global unity that no one saw coming. And some cast members almost never took the job to begin with.
What can I do, Captain? You know we're always supposed to maintain good relations with the natives.
Number 9. Before becoming the cranky, lovable Dr. McCoy, DeForest Kelly wasn't sure he even wanted the part. He was known for playing villains in westerns and worried that a sci-fi role would typecast him. Roddenberry offered him the part more than once. He hesitated each time. And the result? One of the most beloved characters in Trek history, and one of the finest grumpy heart of gold performances TV has ever seen. But no character was harder to cast or protect than Scotty. Number 10. James Duhan, known to fans as Chief Engineer Montgomery Scotty Scott, was more than just the miracle worker on the Enterprise. He was also a World War II veteran, and during D-Day, he lost his right middle finger to machine gun fire. Instead of letting it define him, Duhan learned how to hide it on screen, using props, careful blocking, and clever camera angles. Most fans never even noticed. Behind the transporter console was a man who survived real battles, and brought quiet strength to every mission. Hey, pretty wild so far, right? If you're enjoying these behind-the-scenes stories, feel free to like the video or subscribe for more deep dives into the legends behind the lens. And stick around, because coming up, we've got a forgotten child star, a deleted episode, and the strangest writing credit in Star Trek history. You won't want to miss it.
Is there something I can do for you, Captain? Like what?
Number 11. In the Next Generation episode, The Price, things slowed down just long enough to go viral. The scene? Dr. Beverly Crusher and Counselor Deanna Troi stretching in leotards, mid-conversation in the ship's gym. It was casual, friendly, a moment of downtime, but fans weren't looking at the dialogue. The scene became one of the most paused and replayed moments in Star Trek history, not because of what was said, but because of the unexpected visual that came with it. It left an impression that stretched far beyond the holodeck, quietly becoming one of the franchise's most talked about moments. Sometimes, the strangest legacy starts with one yoga mat and a pair of officers just trying to relax.
Then I met Jack. Oh, took months to figure it out with him.
Number 12. Before Interview with the Vampire, before Spider-Man, before any of it, Kirsten Dunst appeared on Star Trek: The Next Generation. She was just 11 years old when she played a telepathic alien child in the episode Dark Page, opposite Lwaxana Troi. It wasn't flashy, it wasn't cute, it was haunting, serious, and emotionally heavy, and Dunst held her own, just one of many future stars who passed through the final frontier. But one episode nearly never aired at all, because someone erased it. Number 13. During the run of the original series, a staffer made a mistake so bad, it became legend. They accidentally recorded over a master reel, wiping out the only complete version of an episode. It was a disaster. The team scrambled to reconstruct the episode from B-roll, backups, and fragments just to get it on air. The final cut aired with minor glitches. Most fans never noticed, but behind the scenes, panic. Pure panic. And that wasn't the only wild production curveball in Trek history. Number 14. Before the motion picture, Paramount planned to launch a brand new Trek series called Phase 2. New cast, new characters, no Captain Kirk. Spock was missing from early drafts. Kirk was barely involved. A new Vulcan science officer was introduced. They were ready to start filming. Then the project was pulled and retooled into a film instead. Phase 2 died. Star Trek, the motion picture, was born, and the original crew went where no reboot ever dared. But sometimes the strangest stories come from the most unlikely writers. Number 15. In 1973, during production of the animated series, a young fan named Fred Bronson, just 10 years old, wrote a story about Spock being cloned. Walter Koenig, who played Chekhov, liked the idea. He helped refine it. The result was The Infinite Vulcan, a fully produced canon episode, written by a 10-year-old. Say what you want about the cartoons, no other franchise took its fans that seriously. Number 16. It was fiction. It was a fantasy. But according to some real astronauts, Star Trek got more right than most science training videos. NASA engineers and spaceflight veterans praised the show's treatment of chain of command, communication protocols, and even theoretical propulsion. They said it taught teamwork and critical thinking better than actual training films. Star Trek didn't just imagine the future, it helped shape the people who got us there. But the science fiction didn't come without real-world technical struggles. Number 17. Leonard Nimoy's most iconic feature was a nightmare to wear. Early on, Spock's pointed ears were made from fragile foam latex, and under the hot lights of the studio, they would start to melt right off his face. Crews had to pause filming to re-glue and reshape them constantly. Nimoy went through dozens of pairs each season just to keep the illusion alive. It was science fiction magic, held together with literal glue. But there was one woman holding far more of Trek together than anyone realized. Number 18. She was Nurse Chapel. She was the ship's computer. She was Lwaxana Troi, and she was there from the very beginning. Majel Barrett, Gene Roddenberry's wife, was one of the few actors to appear in almost every version of Star Trek for over 30 years. From the original series to the Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, Voyager, and even Enterprise, her voice or presence was always there. She wasn't just part of the crew, she was the heart of the ship. And then there's the moment that was never meant to be legendary, but became one anyway. Number 19. Slow punches, rubber suit, that flying dropkick. When Kirk fought the Gorn in the episode Arena, it was one of the cheesiest battles ever filmed, but fans loved it. Shatner missed his marks. The Gorn's costume ripped mid-take. The rocks were foam. It was awkward, laughable, and now, absolutely unforgettable. It's been parodied, remade, and even lovingly recreated in modern Trek, because sometimes the worst fight scene punches the hardest in our memory. Number 20. It sounds like a parody, but it nearly happened. In early concept discussions for the original series, Gene Roddenberry floated an idea for a musical episode. The plot? Spock and the crew would encounter an alien race that only communicated through music, forcing the Enterprise crew to sing, including Spock. Leonard Nimoy was horrified. He fought back hard, insisting that Spock's calm, controlled image would be destroyed by bursting into song. The idea was shelved quickly, but somewhere in an old file drawer, a first draft of the Star Trek musical episode may still exist, and fans still wonder, what would Spock have sung? Bonus fact. During the original series episode, The Apple, stuntman Jay Jones was rigged for a simple explosion effect. But something went wrong. The charge detonated too close. Jones was blown backward. His costume caught fire, and he was fully engulfed in flames. Crew members rushed to smother him with blankets. He survived, but just barely. After that, Star Trek changed how it handled on-set safety. Because beneath the sets, costumes, and starlight, people were risking everything to bring the future to life. Star Trek was never just about space. It was about people, risking careers, hiding pain, fighting backstage, and holding on to something bigger than themselves. It survived rejection, egos, network indifference, and melted ears. And somehow, it became one of the most important shows ever made. If you learned something new or just saw the series in a whole new light, feel free to like, subscribe, and share your favorite behind-the-scenes Trek moment in the comments. Thanks for watching.